Big weekend around the country coming up. The Department of Transport and Community Safety in KZN will brief the media today about the deployment of law enforcement authorities over this registration weekend. That's as KZN has become synonymous with political violence, especially in the run-up to election season. So ahead of this briefing, let's bring in our very own Karinda Jagmohan for a sense of what we can expect, Karinda. And I suppose, what are some of the things that residents of particular areas of the province will be hoping they'll hear from Transport and Community Safety this morning?
Indeed. Good morning, Michelle. Well, of course, residents, especially in the northern part of the province and eThekwini, where it is being regarded as a political hotspot, will want to hear about safety measures regarding the election season. This means voter registration, as well as in the months running up to the date of elections next year that's still to be pronounced. Now, yesterday there was a media briefing by the IEC in KZN which explained that they have a process to categorize various voting stations in terms of being a high-risk, medium or low-risk area for political violence or political intolerance, meaning where there have been incidents of political violence or such attacks in the past. And right now, they have not noted any areas that are high risk, but the IEC's provincial electoral officer mentioned that this is always a fluid situation, and so there will be police deployment, not necessarily at voting stations in KwaZulu-Natal, but around the area where police will be on high alert. So today, from the Department of Community Safety, we expect to hear where exactly police will be deployed and what they will be doing in these areas, and perhaps if there are some voting stations where they will be in close proximity to because of these concerns. Like you rightly mentioned, KZN has become synonymous with political violence, and not just around voter registration weekend, but in the months leading up to the election day. We have seen in the past months at least various incidents of political violence, especially in northern KwaZulu-Natal, where we have seen a number of IFP and NFP councillors gunned down. Here in eThekwini, we have also seen the murders of ANC councillors, as well as in one case an EFF councillor. So certainly what we have heard from the police minister previously on this is that there's the issue of inter-party politics and intra-party politics, where in some cases two political parties have grievances with each other, and in other cases the issues are within the party itself and in terms of getting a position of power. Now, we also expect to hear from an update about the multi-party political intervention task team, which is a specific task team for KZN set up to look into the issue of political violence. This comes from the Morane Commission of Inquiry years ago in 2016, which focused on this very issue, and that task team is still working on this. But unfortunately, as we look at the situation as it is here in 2023, the issue of political violence is still a major issue in KwaZulu-Natal, and something that law enforcement authorities can't seem to pull the plug on. So expect to hear more about what developments there are, and not just on voter registration weekend, but as we go into the election year, what can we see police doing on the ground to protect the lives of councillors as well as residents? Yeah, absolutely, Karinda. And of course, going into the weekend, we also have all kinds of weather warnings. We know that inclement weather has played a large role in KwaZulu-Natal. The impact that it's had economically for various businesses, for residents in particular areas. Is that something that we're hoping to get some clarity on, just in terms of the plan, should indeed the weather be more extreme than anticipated? Certainly, we have heard, in fact, yesterday from the IEC in KwaZulu-Natal, which explained that, of course, the weather is something they can't control, especially in KZN, where we see often turbulent weather coming very suddenly. It's seemingly clear skies this weekend, but what the IEC says is that they have progressed in terms of ensuring that they use suppliers for, let me backtrack. Out of the over 4,900 voting stations, just 100 of those are temporary, meaning they're tents. So the IEC says that they have ensured that they go to suppliers to provide quality tents that won't be impacted if there is heavy rain. But they did really admit that it's something they can't control. They are crossing fingers that the weather plays ball. But in many cases, at least most of the voting stations are inside public or private structures. So it should be fine. And of course, this community safety department is also aligned with the transport department. So they will will be responding with regards to access to voting stations in terms of the quality of roads, especially in rural areas where dirt roads would be impacted by heavy rain. So we'll see what they have to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It cannot be an excuse for why we don't go out and register to vote this weekend. Karinda, Jagmohan, thanks very much indeed for that update. And of course, we're keeping an eye on that briefing as well.